Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Greenham Trust and the Good Exchange Community Forum for January 2021. So the first one that we've done this year. And we're really excited today to be supported by a team from Barclays Digital Eagles, who are going to tell us all everything that we need to know about online security and fraud. So I think hopefully, having looked at the agenda, there'll be something for everyone today, whether you're working for a charitable organisation or just interested personally. So I'd just like to introduce everyone that we've got who's on the panel today or presenting. So my name's Marina Stedman. I'm the head of marketing for the Good Exchange. I've got Helen Carlisle, who's a systems lead and technical support manager for the Good Exchange, and she'll be talking through some tips on best practice for using the platform. We have Misha Wallace, who many of you know, our client support manager from the Good Exchange, and Louise James, head of grants from Greenham Trust. And we have three representatives from Barclays Digital Eagles: Katie Mitchell, who's the external Digital Eagle relationship manager from Barclays UK; Ross Martin, who's the engagement manager from Barclays Digital Eagles; and Jessica Astley, who's the external Digital Eagles manager from Barclays UK. So I'm quickly going to go through the agenda that you'll all have seen when you registered. So the top part of the session, the main bulk of the session today, is going to be run by the Barclays Digital Eagles team, and they'll take us through things like cybercrime and digital footprints. And I'm not going to read this all out because you can see it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Helen Carlisle will talk through a few tips on using the Good Exchange platform. So now I'm going to hand over to Jessica. Interested to see what you've got to say. So over to you, Barclays Digital Eagles.
Lovely, thank you. So I think, Katie, you're going to do a little bit of introduction?
Yeah, of course. So while Jess brings up the screen and just make sure everyone can see it. So I just wanted to come on and say good morning, everybody. And first of all, thank you to the Good Exchange for inviting us on today's session. We really appreciate it. Marina's gone through our roles a little bit, but I just want to tell you a little bit more about the Digital Eagles. So our Digital Eagles are passionate colleagues, and they're helping everyone get the most out of digital. So no matter where you are on that digital journey, we can help you keep up to date and stay safe online. Last year was a really big year for our team, and like most of you, we had to adapt and take even more of what we do online. And we were able to reach more and more organisations like yourself, which was absolutely fantastic. We helped charities get their counselling and their group sessions online, provided them with a free online learning platform which could be personalised for their needs. And generally, we just put ourselves out there for support, and we got involved with some truly amazing projects. If you want to find out more about who we are as Digital Eagles, you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and LinkedIn. Just simply search Digital Eagles and we'll pop up. We also have our own website, which we'll share with you at the end of today's session for Marina to share. But today we're going to be running through one of our most popular sessions, which is digital safety, fraud and scams. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jess, who'll be running us through today's session. So over to you, Jess.
Good morning, everybody. So as you can see on the screen, I'm just going to share the agenda with you for today's session. So this presentation's been created just to give an overview of cybercrime, fraud and scams. So what we'll be going through today is the Barclays Digital Safety Campaign, an insight into cybercrime, fraud and scams, tactics used by fraudsters, common scams, top tips and best practice, and useful resources. As we all know, the digital age is bringing huge benefits to all, but there are new and different challenges too. And as we spend ever more time using the internet, so fraudsters, and they're eager to exploit our online lives and discover new ways to con us out of our hard-earned money. In order to tackle this problem, in May of 2017, Barclays launched our digital safety campaign to help raise awareness of the importance of digital safety. And as part of this ongoing campaign, we are delivering education and awareness sessions to our colleagues, customers and local communities across the UK. So I'm just going to share some facts and figures with you. So cybercrime remains one of the biggest threats to UK national security. Offences reported by individuals and businesses have risen 23% over the past year. 1.2 billion successfully stolen through fraud and scams in 2019. And identity fraud cases have increased by 61% of the total cases recorded to the National Fraud Database. So no longer can we have the mindset that this is something that will never happen to me and always to somebody else. So what is cybercrime? Organised cybercriminals have been quick to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the internet, particularly with the growth in shopping and banking online. So why is cybercrime so successful? The use of technology has not only made our lives much easier, but it's also made it easier for criminals. And it's relatively simple to commit. So these criminals don't need to be highly skilled. Instead, they have softwares and tools that can do all of the work for them. And it's cheap to commit. So some of these criminals work from behind their desk and behind a screen. And cyber criminals can stay anonymous. So there are ways that they can target us and protect their identity or where they're committing these crimes. And you are far less likely to be caught committing a crime online than you are in person. There are high rewards involved with cybercrime for very little effort. One cyber attack or data breach has the potential to target millions of people. So now we just take a quick look at the psychology behind fraud and scams. So fraudsters will use clever tactics in order to commit fraud, which could involve stealing your personal and financial information. So firstly, let's take a quick look at the psychology behind all of the fraud and scams. Fraudsters will take advantage of your emotions to get you to do something, and they may use greed as a way to target you. So we'd all love to get something for free. And fraudsters will often use competitions to get us involved with something that isn't necessarily going to allow us to win something. Instead, you divulge all of your information. They may use a sense of urgency to get you to react to a request. Otherwise, there may be some form of consequence. So it could be, we often see something around DVLA. So your car tax is running out, quickly log in and update all of your information and make a payment. So this is a sense of urgency to make you react to something that isn't actually happening. And they may play on your curiosity to encourage you to go ahead and click somewhere to share your details. This could be an offer of something online. So you could see something for a lot cheaper than what you've seen it previously, and this could lead you to a fake website because you're curious to see if you can save some money. And they may also use fear, where you think before you do something because perhaps you're told your information is at risk and there's fraudulent activity on your bank account. Psychologists describe humans as having two systems of thinking. One is fast and makes snap judgments about situations, and the other is a slower system that does the deep thinking on more difficult problems. And fraudsters want us to use the faster part of our brain as it gives them a better success rate of committing fraud. What's your digital footprint? As criminals use the internet to source our information, we need to be more mindful about what we share online. Most of us will have some form of digital footprint, and this is essentially any information that can be found about us online, whether it's social media, whether it's other websites that we've signed up to. So here's an example of some of the information that can be found online by visiting various websites and social media accounts. So people can get hold of your name and date of birth, your full address, family, photos, and as you can see, the rest are displayed on the screen. So we really need to think twice before we do share anything online, because once it's out there for everybody to see. There are ways that you can prevent this from happening, such as reviewing your privacy settings on social media accounts to prevent unwanted people from seeing your personal information. So next we take a look at fraudsters' tactics. So they will often use phishing, and phishing is spoof emails that are trying to get you to click on a link, open an attachment, give away information, or make a payment. They'll also use vishing, and these are spoof phone calls trying to get you to either divulge security information, pay or transfer money, or give away personal details. And then we have smishing. So these are spoof text messages that are trying to get you to either click on a link, pay money, give away information, or call a premium number. So these methods and tactics have become far more sophisticated in the last few years. Whenever you receive an email, phone call, or text message, either on your work or personal phone or life, you should always stay vigilant and don't act. So phishing is where criminals can carefully craft emails that may look like they've come from your bank, online retailers, utility companies, the UK government, or well-known organisations. And these phishing emails are trying to get you to do something which will lead to you divulging your personal information. Fraudsters can use company logos, relevant terminology, language to convince you that it's a legitimate email. They can even cover up the original email that they've sent from. They may include attachments or hyperlinks, which if you open or click on, could give them access to your information. If you are suspicious of any of these, even if it's just a small suspicion, make sure that you don't reply, click on any links, or share any information. Companies may offer an email that you can forward these to so that they can investigate. If you think you've spotted a suspicious email, then you can forward it to suspicious email reporting services. The National Cybersecurity Centre will analyse the suspect email and any websites it links to, and they'll use any additional information you've provided to look for and monitor any suspicious activity. As we take a closer look at vishing, this is very similar to phishing, but vishing is a way that criminals target us via phone calls, purporting to be from a well-known organisation. Similar to phishing, they're trying to get you to divulge personal or financial information. Beware, criminals can spoof telephone numbers, so if you compare the number calling to the real verified number, they'll look the same. The callers can be very professional in their approach. They come armed with information and have a good knowledge of the company that they are pretending to be from. If you are suspicious, politely end the call and call the company on a number that you've verified and can trust. Check with your telecoms provider, as they may be able to help you block and blacklist some numbers. And finally, we move on to smishing. As I've said, that's sending text messages. So the same tactics can be used when criminals send you a text message. But again, remember, the name of the company who you may think have sent you the message can be spoofed. And therefore, if you already received messages from the company, they could be added to your real thread of messages. If at all you are unsure, don't reply with any information, don't click on any hyperlinks, or call any numbers that are included in these messages. Instead, contact the number that you trust. So now let's take a look at ransomware. So ransomware is links or attachments in phishing and smishing attacks that could lead you to download ransomware onto your device. And ransomware is a form of malware that provides criminals with the ability to lock a computer from a remote location and then display a pop-up window informing the owner or the user that it will not be unlocked until a sum of money is paid. Essentially, ransomware infects your computer and can do this in many different ways. So the different ways that ransomware can be put onto your computer is if you open a malicious attachment in an email, click on a malicious link in an email, instant message, social networking site, or other website. Open infected files, open corrupt documents such as Word or Excel documents, or connect a corrupt USB connected device. So what should you do if you receive one of these? Do not reply to or click on any links contained in unsolicited or spam emails from companies or individuals that you don't recognise. Visit only websites that you know are reputable. Always install updates to software and apps, including operating systems as prompted on your device. Ensure you have all effective and updated antivirus and anti-spyware software and a firewall running before you go online. And regularly back up your data, whether this is to the cloud or using a USB device. If you have ransomware on your computer, then you can run a full system scan to detect and remove the malware. Or if your computer has been locked by ransomware, seek professional advice from a trustworthy source. So impersonation fraud. Impersonation fraud is costing businesses a lot of money. And two of the most commonly reported attacks from our business clients to our fraud team are invoice fraud and CEO fraud. Invoice fraud is where a cyber criminal will send a fake invoice hoping that you'll pay it. And often they've done an awful lot of research prior to sending this invoice and will time it at the exact time which will give them the maximum chance of having success. So how do you decipher the difference between a genuine invoice versus a fraudulent one? Well, the red flag should be any change of details, especially sort codes and account numbers. You must always verbally confirm with a known individual in the business sending the invoice any change of payment details, or if it's an instruction that you've received for the first time, those details must be approved before a payment is sent. You must make a call using a number that you have on file or that you have sourced from somewhere other than that invoice, and that way you can double check that everything matches up and that you won't send any money to somebody that cannot be trusted. So CEO fraud is often instigated using social engineering, and successful frauds of this can lead to significant losses. There is the cyber criminal. This is where the cyber criminal would take control of senior leaders' emails or spoof the senior leader's email, and they will then send an email requesting a payment to be made urgently. It's essential to verbally check any sort of internal payment request, the sort code, the account number, and the amount before it's sent out. So if something comes out of the blue, then it's always important to chase up with the person that sent the email. So next we take a look at common scams, and I'm just going to pick a couple out just to go over. So the first one that I will cover is money mules. So money mules are an individual who allows his or her bank account to be used to move criminal funds in return for easy money or goods. This is a form of money laundering, and if you knowingly allow your account details to be used for fraud, then you could face a prison sentence. So what should you do if somebody is trying to get you to be a money mule? If you get contacted through social media, then immediately report the account for illegal activity, and hopefully it will stop someone else falling victim in the future. You can also report suspected criminal activity to Action Fraud. Whatever you do, don't share your account details with somebody that you don't trust. Stop, think and act. Don't allow your bank account to be used to move money for others. Remember, handling money that's been obtained fraudulently is a crime, even if you don't know where the money came from. Be especially wary of unsolicited offers or easy money. Research any company offering such job opportunities and make sure that their contact details are genuine. Try to stick to reputable job ad websites used by recommended people such as your peers, parents, or any educational people. Try to stick to reputable job adverts and always be cautious of job offers from overseas. It'll be harder for you to find out whether they are legitimate. If you do get caught acting as a money mule, your bank account will be closed. You will find it hard to access further student loans. It will be difficult to get a phone contract. You'll have problems applying for credit, and you could go to prison for up to 14 years. Now I'm just going to quickly cover purchase scams. So how it could happen to you. You search for a popular item online for the lowest price that you can find, and you find a fantastic bargain and it pops up on an auction website. You get in touch to ask the seller why the price is so low. You may be given an excuse such as it's an unwanted gift, it was bought overseas, or the original owner bought two by mistake. The seller then puts gentle pressure on you to pay by bank transfer rather than credit card or another secure payment service such as PayPal or your debit card. You may be encouraged to click out of the web page to do this. You might also be told that you'll get a special discount if you transfer the money immediately, or you could be tempted to act quickly by a suggestion the offer is time limited, or that rival customers are looking at your item. So you might be enticed by the offer, and you then type in your details and agree to do the bank transfer. Your item or goods will never arrive, and a follow-up phone call is never answered. You can't get hold of the seller because there's no information to contact them. Again, stop, think and act, and be very wary of any item price that simply looks too good to be true, because more than likely it is. Identity fraud. So it's something that we hear about that we might not necessarily actually know the ins and outs of. So how could this happen to you? Thieves want as many details about you as possible. This could be your name, your date of birth, your gender, your residential address, mother's maiden name, and the ultimate prize, your bank account details. And to do this, they'll try to steal or intercept your post, cold call to trick you into handing over your personal information, hack into your computer or social media, or email you in the hope of convincing you to divulge all of these details. Once they have enough personal details about you to pass themselves off as you, then they can apply for credit cards, loans, buy smartphones or other expensive goods. They can even withdraw cash. You only discover the crime when companies start calling you asking for goods to be repaid or debts to be repaid, or if you take out credit for your own genuine purpose and discover your rating has been badly damaged. This means that you can't then access the deals that you want. So you can prevent identity fraud, as seen on the screen, by checking your bank accounts regularly to make sure that you know what's gone out, what's come in, and that everything checks out. Keep a close eye on your credit rating and watch out for any unexpected activity. And be suspicious about any phone call, text, emails, or social posts claiming to be your bank, an organisation, or a company which asks for your personal information. So next we move on to passwords, and how secure is your password? So as you can see displayed on the screen are the top 10 passwords of 2019. And as you can see, they're very simplistic, very easy to guess, and there's probably a lot of people that use these more than what we think. So choosing these type of passwords, we are making it very, very easy for cybercriminals and fraudsters to gain access to your account, and this could lead to other types of fraud. Reusing the same password across different accounts can be dangerous, and a cybercriminal might steal one of your passwords and then use it to access your other accounts. And this means that they could quickly break into several of your accounts despite only knowing one password. And hopefully it's not one of them displayed on the screen. It's a good idea to use a different password for each one of your accounts, and a password manager can help you remember them all. So a password manager is an app on your phone, tablet or computer that stores your passwords securely so that you don't need to remember them all. Some password managers can synchronize your passwords across your different devices, making it easier for you. Some can also create random unique passwords for you to use when you need to create a new password or change an existing one. And they're designed to make using and generating passwords easier and more secure. Many can also automatically enter the appropriate password into websites and apps on your behalf so that you don't even have to type them in. Using a password manager means that you only have to remember one password, and that's to the actual password manager itself. So there are a couple of different password managers that are available. Some can actually be built into your software, such as Apple, Google, built into your internet browser. And this will be a pop-up box that asks you if you would like the website to remember your password that you are using. You can also get standalone password managers, which are available to download, and many of which can be installed on different types of devices. Some of them have different features, so it's worth always looking at online reviews and finding out which one could be best for you. So your password manager holds all of your passwords apart from the one for your password manager. So how can you protect that? So whether you're using a standalone password manager or a built-in one, it's important to keep the password manager account secure so that you only have access to that password saved within. You also need to take steps to make sure that you can always get in yourself so that you don't lose access to all of your passwords. The National Cybersecurity Centre, who are a government body, strongly recommend that you set up two-factor authentication on your password manager account. And we'll come on to this later. If you have the option, set up more than one two-factor authentication so that you have extra backup. Install updates for your password manager app as soon as you're prompted to. If you're using a browser, always make sure you're using the latest version to keep your details up to date. And choose a strong password for the password manager account. You can't store this in the password manager itself, so you might want to jot it down and keep it somewhere expected, not next to the device that all of your passwords are saved on. So one of the most important passwords that you'll ever have is to your email account, because if we ever need to reset a password, all of the links are sent to your email account. So your email account is essentially the gateway to everything, and cyber criminals can use your email to access many of your personal accounts and find out vital personal information such as your bank details, address or date of birth. How many times have you actually forgotten a password online? And that's when it's sent to your email address. So have a strong separate password for your email means that if cyber criminals steal the password for one of your less important accounts, they can't use it to access your email account. So what are some password top tips? So a really good way to create a strong, memorable password is to use 3 random words. Numbers and symbols can still be used if needed. For example, 3 red house monkeys, 27 exclamation mark. So try and be creative and use words memorable to you so that people can't guess your password. Your social media accounts can give away vital clues about yourself. So don't use words such as your child's name or favourite sports team, which are easy for people to guess. Never use the following personal details for your password: your current partner's name, child's name, other family member's name, pet's name, place of birth, favourite holiday, or something related to your favourite sports team. So previously touched on two-factor authentication, and two-factor authentication provides a way of double checking that you are who you say you are. So what is it? It's a way of double checking that you are who you are when a person is claiming to be you using online services such as banking, email, or social media. And it's available on most of the major online services. So when setting up two-factor authentication, the service will ask you to provide a second factor, which is something that you and only you can access. And this could be a one-time passcode that's sent to you via text message that you then have to input on that website to continue. So why should you use two-factor authentication? Because it might seem a little bit of a faff. But your passwords can be stolen by cyber criminals that could potentially give them access to your online accounts. However, accounts that have been set up to use two-factor authentication will then require them to use the second line, and they won't be able to access this. The National Cybersecurity Centre again recommends that you set up two-factor authentication on all of your important accounts, and these are typically known as high value and things that you really care about. So if you haven't already got two-factor authentication set up, then you can set this up now. And some online services will already have this switched on for you. But if they don't, then you can switch it on yourself to give yourself extra protection. If this is available for you, it's usually found in the security settings of your account. It could also be called two-step verification. So just look out for two-factor authentication and two-step verification, and that way you can provide that extra layer of security. So how often do we go out and use public Wi-Fi because we might have run out of data? Well, sometimes it's not always secure. So the information that you send over a public Wi-Fi, like in a coffee shop or in a hotel, can be collected or intercepted by cyber criminals. If this information is not encrypted, then login details, passwords, emails, and other important information can be read and even changed. When on public Wi-Fi, be aware of the risks. If you wouldn't have the conversation in public, then don't send it in public. And finally, think before you send information. Treat all Wi-Fi links with suspicion and don't assume that the Wi-Fi link is legitimate. It could be bogus and it could be set up by a criminal that's trying to capture your valuable personal information. Try to verify it's a legitimate Wi-Fi connection. So some bogus Wi-Fi that's been set up by malicious users will have a connection name that's deliberately similar to the coffee shop, hotel or venue that's offering the free Wi-Fi. You can always check with an employee if you're unsure. So ways that you can stop this from happening is by using a VPN, which is a virtual private network. And by using a VPN when you connect to public Wi-Fi, you'll be able to effectively be using a private tunnel that encrypts all of your data that passes through the network. And this can help prevent cyber criminals that are lurking on the network from intercepting your data. So let's just have a quick look at some key ways to protect yourself. So use strong passwords and two-factor authentication. Never share your bank PINs, passcodes or login details. Make sure that all of your security software is up to date. Don't automatically trust any link, attachment, text message, phone number or email. Review your social media privacy settings and think twice before you post. Always back up your most important data. And remember, if a deal or offer sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So there are some really useful resources out there if you want to learn more about staying safe online, keep up to date with the latest fraud and scams, or report fraud and internet crime. And there's even support if you need the support yourself. We also recommend visiting the National Cyber Security Centre website, which offers excellent trusted advice. So on the screen, you can see a couple of resources that are available to you. So Barclays offer some resources to keep you safe digitally. Action Fraud is where you can report fraud and internet crime. Get Safe Online, Take 5 to stop fraud. Friends Against Scams and Victim Support. There is also another useful resource, which is the latest edition of the Little Book of Cyber Scams 2.0, and this can be found on the Metropolitan Police website. In the search function, How Can We Help You? Enter the title of the booklet, which will take you to the page where you can access a PDF version of this booklet, and you'll also find other great resources on their website. So that's the end of the presentation. I will pass back to Katie.
Lovely, thank you so much, Jess. We're actually going to swing by the lovely Ross, who is our cyber security expert within our team, and he's got such a great passion for the subject that we've shared with you today. So Ross, I'm just going to come over to you for a few thoughts, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Katie. And thank you, Jess, for a great presentation. Lots of key information and advice in there, lots to take in, but we'll be able to give you some useful resources so you can digest that in your own time. One of the key points I wanted to make, first of all, is that they're saying that fraud has reached epidemic levels in the UK. There was an article on BBC News just on Monday, which I'd encourage you to have a look at, which really talks about the issue that we're facing now. It becomes a growing problem and something that all of us need to be thinking about in order to protect ourselves and the companies, the organisations that we work for. I think it would be also really worth saying that charities can be seen as an attractive target for cyber criminals, and this is really based on the personal and financial data that the organisation would hold on record, and of course the funds that will also be held within the organisation. What I want to just mention is a few key points just to elaborate on some of the content that Jess has shared that relates specifically to charities. So first of all, I'll just mention around ransomware. Now, ransomware can really be an issue for charities where cyber criminals will look for weaknesses in the charity's network. So that network of the infrastructure that you have in order to do your business as a charity, and they'll look to exploit that. There is lots of support available through the government Cyber Essentials scheme. So whoever is in the organisation who is able to support with protecting your network and reviewing all of the IT that you'll be using, it'd be worth looking at the Cyber Essentials scheme to see what that can do in order to provide advice and tips to defend against attacks like ransomware. That is a very real attack, and as I say, there's data and there is vast sums of money which could be available if people were to be a victim of a ransomware attack. So don't forget those attachments, those links, the passwords, advice that we've shared today, because that can go a long way to preventing a form of ransomware attack, which affected the NHS just 2 or 3 years ago, which you may remember, probably one of the biggest ransomware attacks that we've seen to date. Just to also mention things like the invoice fraud and money transfers, I really would stress there, this is still a big issue for all businesses in terms of being a real target. Review the verification process that you have in place for making payments. You really need to have some form of two-step process to make sure that things are verified and checked by colleagues, and don't feel as urgent as something may be, or it says in the communication you've received that you need to make that payment, instantaneously. We need to remember that this is how people will try and catch you out with the urgency that they use in the instructions. Review your policies, really look at those policies that you have within the charity to make sure that you are protected. It's better to do a number of checks as opposed to just do something quickly to get it off your list. So I really would be staying focused on the processes around that. We continue to see fake charity collectors and websites. It's really important that anyone who is collecting money on behalf of a charity, that there are official policies in place to make sure that the general public can verify the charity and the person who is collecting. So making it really clear as to how you can carry out those checks in terms of identification, so people aren't duped into making fake donations to fake charities. We also have things like the online donations, of course, and I would encourage everyone to monitor the transactions, because what you see here is that when there are stolen credit cards, bank details, a lot of these criminals will look to test the card to see whether it's live, and they'll use the online donation facility as a way to do that. So do have a look at the transactions. If you're seeing multiple transactions at strange times of day for small amounts, it may be that someone is trying to test whether those card details, the stolen details they have, are actually going to be able to be used. Volunteers, unfortunately, you may come across some form of insider threat. So this is fraudsters looking to gain access to personal financial information, and they'll be doing this by securing a volunteer role within the organisation. So I really would stress about follow up on all volunteer references to make sure that you're checking their credentials. And also, depending on the access that you may be giving those volunteers around financial records, sensitive information, you may also need to do additional checks as well. I think the final point I'll make, and the one that Jess mentioned, is in terms of the sort of the top tips, is really consider the Take 5 campaign. And this can be both in your personal life and your work life. So take 5 minutes before you do anything, before you're asked to make that payment, when you pick up the phone, when you receive an email or a text message. Those are all really clever and sophisticated ways that people try and extract information from us and get us to do something that we wouldn't normally do. And they play on all of those psychological terms that Jess referred to earlier in the presentation. So take 5 minutes before you do anything, verify it first. Don't take it just at face value. They're just some of my added thoughts. I'm now going to hand over to Helen Carlisle from the Good Exchange.
Thank you very much, Ross, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thanks again to the Barclays team for a very interesting discussion. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions on that. We'll have time for that in a minute. I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes focusing really on the Good Exchange and some tips for keeping your fundraising activities safe with us. So really, firstly, let's just have a quick chat about security and regulation on the Good Exchange itself. Now, we obviously accept donations to projects on the Good Exchange, but all of those donations are processed directly on the Barclaycard secure portal and not on the Good Exchange platform. So that means that the Good Exchange team don't handle any of your card details or store any of that sensitive information. We are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, and we're also regulated by the fundraising regulator. So there are lots of hurdles and hoops that we have to jump through to make sure that we are complying to all of those regulations, and we have, you know, regular auditing of security procedures so that we can stay regulated by those authorities. Our own platform is hosted on secure servers, Microsoft Azure servers, which have inbuilt security. That's all hosted in the UK, and that's controlled by our IT team, who are accredited Microsoft partners and certified with all the certification that they need to ensure that they're keeping us safe and secure. And again, our platform is, we use Cloudflare security, which handles all the technical things that people have maybe heard about but don't know exactly what they do. So that includes the data encryption, firewall, and other features there. So moving on now to tips that you can use to ensure that you are using really best practice on the Good Exchange. We've got a few of those things here which I wanted to highlight. So firstly, if many of you will be applicants with charitable organisations, and you might have an applicant account on the Good Exchange platform, and there is the facility there to have more than one user linked to an account. But what we would recommend is that all users have their own personal account. So you shouldn't be sharing login details. If you're not sure how to add another user, that's something that we can help you with. Again, focusing on something you've already mentioned about setting a secure password, we would recommend something that's not too easy to guess. And again, you shouldn't be sharing that with other users. Our preference is that you use a personal email or a charity email rather than a kind of generic email. And we would also recommend that after every session you log out and you clear your cookies regularly on your computer. For all our organization accounts, there should be one super user, and this user can, at least one super user who can add and manage other users. We would also recommend adding someone who is maybe more familiar with the financial matters of your organization. So finance contact should be added because they will be the ones, it tells us they're the ones to contact if we need to discuss any matters, including invoicing, direct debits, or setting up gift aid for your organization. And they also appreciate the activity reports that can be accessed by any of the users on the platform who are linked to an organization, which give details of all the financial transactions that have gone through the platform. And finally, we would also recommend keeping your organization information up to date. We know that things can change. Annual accounts get updated every year if you have to complete those accounts, but also a lot of people are volunteers with organizations, and especially things like school PTAs. People change as the year goes on, so it is important to keep up to date the users on your account, and users can be added and removed easily by those main administrators. If there's any of those things that you're not sure how to do, then please contact support@thegoodexchange.com and we'll be happy to help you with that. I'd like to pass back to Marina now, who's going to tell you about our appeal.
Thank you, Helen. So before we move on to the questions, I just wanted to talk about something that I'm sure all of you will have seen in the press and heard about on the news, which is the lack of laptops for mainly underprivileged children who are trying to work at home in COVID and don't have access to devices or have to share devices with their brothers and sisters. So Greenham Trust, who is the charitable owner of the Good Exchange, has launched what we're calling the Laptops for Lockdown Learning Appeal and Fund. So Greenham Trust has provided £250,000 of matched funding, plus in conjunction with some other funders, additional money, which is available to schools in Greenham Trust's area of operation to buy laptops for those children who don't have them to work at home. And in addition, we're just about to announce that another funder we work with, Sovereign, who are the housing association in the local area, but also have housing in Oxfordshire, Berkshire, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Gloucestershire, Devon, Wiltshire and Dorset, are also putting in £25,000 of money, which will be available to buy laptops for schools in a wider area. So 12,500 of that is in Greenham Trust's area, which is West Berkshire and North Hampshire. But if you have children at a school in the wider area that's supported by Sovereign, or you know a school or you work at a school, then what we're asking is please put in an application through the Good Exchange. You can start that now, even before the Sovereign Fund is available, and you may possibly be matched with Greenham Trust and or Sovereign and receive money for your school to help buy laptops. We're also looking for individuals and organisations to give donations and grants to help us buy more laptops and also match and extend the offer into a wider area. So if you're interested, you can go to our website there, it's thegoodexchange.com/laptops, or you can contact us through support at the Good Exchange or info at the Good Exchange. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to hand over to the team for questions and answers. We have one question here from Dean, which is, what's the most secure password manager application, or the best one? Which one do you recommend?
Hi Marina, it's Ross. Yeah, happy to take that one. I think it'd be worth me saying, first of all, that nothing is 100% secure. So what I wouldn't want to say is that every password manager can be completely trusted. Unfortunately, you know, we see various data breaches every single day. But my personal opinion, and one that seems to get a lot of good reviews, is the password manager called LastPass. LastPass will sync across your different devices. So your laptop, your smartphone, really useful in terms of storing those passwords. And just to be clear, with password managers, it doesn't actually store your full password. You have what they normally call a master key password to gain access to all of the accounts that you've registered through the application. And the password manager only has half of your master key password. You then enter the remaining part of the password. So when I say they're not 100% secure, I haven't seen to date any password managers that have been breached. And the advice normally is they're far safer than, of course, writing down all your passwords in a logbook, which you can, believe it or not, still buy on the likes of Amazon. So certainly don't go down that route. A password manager is a better option. And personally, I would recommend LastPass.
Thank you, Ross. We have a question from George. I know Jess gave him a typed answer, but other people might be interested. He's asking about public Wi-Fi's. And then he says a number of hotels' Wi-Fi networks, and also when you're in coffee shops and things, they say their Wi-Fi's are not secure. Does that mean we shouldn't be using them? I'm sure we all do.
Yeah, happy to take that one. And Jess, yeah, thanks for your response. I guess that the best advice with public Wi-Fi is you can use it, but I would personally say only use it for general browsing. Certainly don't use it to do anything which involves sending sensitive information, certainly not logging onto your online banking accounts, sending that very confidential email. We've seen people at airports who may not have Wi-Fi on the plane they're traveling on, and they suddenly will send that last urgent email, and that could be over what is not a legitimate, even public Wi-Fi connection. So only use it for general browsing. If you do need to do something, the best thing you can do, Jess has already mentioned, is using the data on your phone, which has more encryption than public Wi-Fi. Normally public Wi-Fi has no encryption for everything that you're doing, so everything can be potentially intercepted. Alternatively is using a VPN app, so a virtual private network. There's many of them on the App Store. Some of them do offer a service just for free, and that will encrypt your information if your VPN app is being used whilst you're surfing on the internet. So using a VPN app is an alternative as well.
Thanks, Ross. David said, can we post the name of the password manager? I was thinking I could put it in the follow-up email that everyone will got. Did you say LastPass? Is that one word? Is it LastPass?
last pass. I will just double check for you. We can certainly send over the direct link as well.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll move on to a question from Ian. Do you use the tools available through the Global Cyber Alliance? In particular, do you recommend setting up Quad 9 to assist in avoiding malware? Far too technical for me, that one.
Yeah. To be honest, that is more of a technical question and might go beyond some of my remit, but I certainly have heard good things about everything that the Global Cyber Alliance offer. In particular, Quad 9 is one way that you can protect against things like malware and the phishing emails that you see. So I'd certainly look into that, but I wouldn't want to sort of give any more detail. It's not something that I'm specifically involved in.
So Sarah has asked, can you recommend a safe website to run a charity auction?
I can take this one. In terms of a safe website, we can't actually make any recommendations because we might have experience with certain websites and platforms delivering. We probably don't do enough in the space of running an auction or doing anything in that nature in regards to the charity space. So we're probably not the best people to make a specific recommendation on that. But what I will say is just do your research and just make sure that, you know, the website is encrypted and that it's password protected. And like Marina and Helen have mentioned on their platform, they don't actually store any of the previous bank details. So look out for things like that. So it's not storing as much data. But yeah, sorry, we can't make any recommendations specifically for that one.
I can perhaps add something though. Obviously, charity auctions usually are in a room, which isn't happening at the moment. But anyway, silent auctions have been increasingly going online. And there are specialist companies like iBid is one that I've used and would recommend. And then myauctions.com, which sounds dodgy, but as a name, but actually they're very good and they do children in need, among others. So again, as Katie said, it's about doing some research and asking for lots of case studies from the provider that you're hoping to work with.
Thanks, Louise. So a question from Nigel, which is about the laptops. A lot of families are having trouble getting data when homeschooling with several children. Can they get help with data access costs via the Good Exchange? From what I understand, the government has done deals with mobile data and broadband companies, haven't they, to support that? Does anyone know? Do you get in touch with the broadband companies and the mobile data companies directly? Do you know that, Helen? You've got children.
I know that I think there was talk about some of those providers actually allowing free access to certain websites, so like BBC Bite Size, things that are actually educational, websites. But I don't know. I haven't heard what the actual arrangement is for that. So no, sorry, can't really help with that.
I would suggest
and clarify that the laptops appeal is specifically geared at buying the devices and paying for some configuration and setup costs. It doesn't extend to providing broadband. And what we do is ask the schools who are the grant recipients for the laptops to obviously assess on, because they know the school children they're working with, assess on a case-by-case basis with their communities what access they need so that the devices can be used.
I think, and I've got a question from Rosemary. Are cookies a security risk, and should we be regularly clearing them from our devices?
Yes, so most websites do use cookies and they can be a security risk because they can be hijacked. So it is really important that you do go in on a regular basis and just clear all of them, just so that you're not putting yourself or your personal information at risk.
Thank you, Jessica. So I think we haven't got any more. Oh, another question. Oh, so Michael says, as well as donations, do you want old laptops? I think the answer to that question is, Michael, we're not collecting laptops, but if you go to bbc.co.uk, they have a page on their website with a whole list of organisations that are collecting and refurbishing laptops, and also the community, what they call the community,
the Newbury Community Resource Centre.
Yes.
So the Community Furniture Project is better known as. is doing a parallel campaign to collect in and refurbish laptops, and we work closely with the organisation already, so it's really good. So we can provide new spec laptops that the schools require, and then the donated laptops can go via the Newbury Community Resource Centre. Their shop is closed at the moment, but they do have a donation point for the laptops.
And also, if you don't live in Newbury, I know, for example, I live in a different town, and our Facebook group has got lots of organisations collecting laptops. If you go to your local Facebook group or something, you'll probably find an organisation near you that is collecting and refurbishing laptops. So a comment by Fleur: I was hit by the CEO scam last year. It was quite subtle and had, exactly as has been said, used the chairman's email to email me, the treasurer, to pay over some cash. I figured it out after a couple of the emails from the scammers started getting more and more urgent. Not my chairman's style at all. As soon as I contacted him, it was clear it was a scam. I reported this to the bank, to their fraud department, but I do wonder if there's more that can be done, as I had the fraudster emailing me for several days later, so the person could have been traced. Any comment from
Marina? I think the best advice there, and certainly something I can say is happening sort of behind the scenes, is when you do forward any sort of suspicious email, fraudulent email to your bank, or as Jess said earlier on, there's a specific email address you can forward that goes to the National Cybersecurity Centre. They will then look into the details of that email. There is more being done all the time to try and intercept those emails so they don't even reach you in the first place. Unfortunately, I think this is the sophistication of these fraudsters that we are still seeing these land in people's inboxes. Sometimes they're just intercepted through email traffic. So again, it comes back to potentially the network that's being used by the organisation. Marina, I was also just going to mention, in regards to LastPass, it is just one word. You can just Google LastPass, but the actual the URL, the website address is simply lastpass.com in order to get started. Something I would like to quickly mention is a real key one I missed off my bit at the end, is with a charity, any organisation, most people will have a website of some description. I would also just encourage people to be mindful of posting on there specific roles held by people within the charity organisation. A good example being things like the finance director, with specific contact details, telephone numbers, email addresses. We do still see that, but unfortunately that makes it even easier for people to try and target you. What you can do as an alternative, and it's probably not as friendly, but obviously there's more sort of security in place, is use a generic contact form on the website. So if people want to contact you, that comes into a central inbox, as opposed to potentially a fraudster knowing exactly who they might want to target because they've got all the details from the website.
Thank you, Ross. So Penny's asking about Bitcoins. She says she keeps getting emails about Bitcoins in her junk email and she deletes them. Is that a good thing?
I would, that would be my, if I was going to give some advice about Bitcoin, I certainly don't want to give any advice about investing in Bitcoin. People have made an awful lot of money. People have also lost an awful lot of money. You need to be, if you are thinking of looking at Bitcoin at all, then obviously you need to look at what you're sort of letting yourself into. But there are lots of scams. I know Martin Lewis has done a big campaign around his name, his face being used in order to promote investing in Bitcoin. I would urge on the side of caution and delete anything around Bitcoin, especially if you have no interest in it, of course.
And a message from Peter, actually a warning. He says, while we've been on this forum, he's had an automated call from Amazon saying there's a funny order on his account, on his landline. So bear in mind what you said.
That scam continues, Marina. You find with a lot of scams, they will come and go, but that is probably a a different type of approach. There were lots of email scams that looked like someone had placed an Amazon order and they're saying it potentially could be fraud on your Amazon account. From that, what's just been mentioned there, obviously they're looking at other ways, which is through automated phone calls. So again, it's being on your guard against all of those different tactics that Jess was talking about that are being used.
Penny said she's had some emails about tax returns, and there is a good email address from HMRC. Is that a scam that you're aware of? HMRC, I think I've had a couple of those.
Yeah, it's particularly poignant at the moment because I think it's time of year where they're asking for some self returns. Couldn't get my words out then, but I think Penny's popped on there the email address.
Oh yes, Penny
Phishing
says
at HMRC.
Yeah, Phishing, which is PHISHING at HMRC.
Yeah, that particular scam, Marina, can look so convincing. I know we've already said that, but it's worth repeating. They can look so convincing. You've just got to make a phone call to HMRC to verify most tax returns that you're due, or if there is some form of demand, let's say, that normally still comes through the post. But any way that you receive something from HMRC, pick up the phone and verify with them using that obviously trusted number or contact details for them.
And the other one that we were talking about before the webinar started was the NHS vaccination one, which I received yesterday, and it's probably the most convincing email that I've ever had, and even the website is an nhs.gov website, but it asks for your date of birth and your mother's maiden name and then starts to ask for bank account details. So we've been told that the NHS wouldn't mail you with this, asking you to fill in an online form with personal details, and it's a scam. So be careful of that and maybe warn anyone you know who's expecting to be invited for a vaccination not to respond to the email. No more questions coming, just people saying thank you. So thanks very much to everyone for joining. It's been very informative. I think there's something, even if you thought you knew about security and were a safe and careful person, there's been something to everyone. So I'd just like to say thank you, and we'll see you at the next community forum, which will be probably at the beginning of March. So thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.